All right, students, this is Mr. Parson. We're covering this question from the very end of our practice test. This is from the 2016 Microeconomics exam. Question number one on bananas, muffins, and coffee and how these markets are interrelated. Remember, the key for this question is actually here. So feel free to use that to help you understand the answer better. But I think an explanation from your teacher is very much warranted. All right, so let's take a look at the question bit by bit. This is part A. In the markets for bananas, muffins, and coffee are interrelated, and each market is perfectly competitive. From the setup for A, in the market for bananas, the equilibrium price is $1 per pound, and the equilibrium quantity is 1,000 pounds per week. Suppose the government imposes a price floor on bananas at $1.20 per pound, causing the quantity supplied to increase to 1,500 pounds per week. So if we follow my arrow over to the side of the page, I've got a model sketched of this. I didn't have to do this, but this just helps me as a student understand what's going on in this particular question. So I've got my supply and demand model in basic model in black, equilibrium price at $1, equilibrium quantity 1,000. Then I stuck in my price floor, where at $1.20, where that raised the quantity supplied to 1,500. And of course, we don't know what the quantity demanded is. That's a big mystery right there. Okay. Now, number one, would the price floor result in a shortage, a surplus, or neither? And so the answer to this is because quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded, this is a surplus. All right. Now, we want to be careful with this question. It does ask us here to explain. Let me make sure I emphasize this here. You were asked to explain this, all right? The reason why they asked you to explain is because there's only three possible answers, and sometimes when there's only three possible answers or four possible answers or five, they don't want to think you just guessed the right answer, okay? So there is a surplus here because the quantity supplied exceeds the quantity demanded at the price floor. That's it. So as long as you say, due to the price floor, quantity supplied exceeds quantity demanded, therefore there's a surplus, you are in great shape on A1. Okay, now A2, calculate the price elasticity of supply if the price increases from $1 to $1.20 and show your work. Anytime they say calculate on the AP exam, they want you to show your work, but they went ahead and specifically said it, so we want to make sure we absolutely do that, all right? Now, we're talking about price elasticity of supply between $1 and $1.20, so we want to make sure we sort of highlight those points over here. I've indicated those. So the on our graph, this is one of the points. This is the other one of the points represented by a dollar on the supply curve and $1.20 on the supply curve. And then again, as we move along the supply curve from one of those points to the other one of those points. All right. So what is the price elasticity of supply between $1 and $1.20? Show your work. I have my formula down here. All right. That I memorized ahead of time. So go ahead and memorize your formula. It's delta Q over delta P multiplied by P1 plus P2 over Q1 plus Q2. They did not say we had to use the midpoint formula, but I think it's cleaner, so I do it. If you didn't, it's okay. You're just going to want to check your work by the key when you're done, all right? So I'm going to substitute in all my values here. 500 is the difference or the change in quantity. 20 cents is the change in price. $2.20 is my two prices added together. 2,500 are my two quantities added together. And then I just simplify in order to solve this, all right? So we're just going to do some things back that we learned back in pre-algebra, right? 500 and 2,500 simplify to 1 and 5. 20 cents and $2.20 simplify to 1 and 11. And so for an answer, I get 11 fifths or 2.2. 11 fifths or 2.2. So if I got 11 fifths or 2.2, I got the point there. Again, if you had a slightly different answer because you used a different method, check your own work off of the answer key on the next page on the practice test. All right. Now, number 1-3, between $1 and $1.20, between $1 and $1.20 is the price is the supply elastic, unit elastic, inelastic. Explain. The answer here is pretty straightforward. Supply is elastic because price elasticity of supply is greater than 1 but less than infinity. They're just looking to know there that you understand that 11 fifths is higher than 1 and less than infinity. Therefore, we're looking at a relatively elastic situation. All right, so if you have questions about that, make sure you bring those to tutoring on Monday. Let's look at the next half of the question. B, bananas are an input for muffins. Number one, draw a correctly labeled graph of the muffin market of the market for muffins, indicating the equilibrium price and quantity labeled P0 and Q0 respectively. I don't know why they went with P0 and Q0, but since they went with that, we're going to as well. All right. So over here, I've got my answer to B1. I've got a supply curve, demand curve, price and quantity labeled on my axes, P0 and Q0. And look at that, I get a whole point on the AP exam. All right. B2 on the graph drawn in B1 show the impact of an increase in the price of bananas on the muffin market, labeling the new equilibrium price and quantity P1 and Q1 respectively. Well, since bananas are an input for muffins and there has been an increase in the price of bananas, this is pretty straightforward. We are going to have a decrease in supply, remember, which looks like this, a decrease in supply in the muffin market since the price of an input got more expensive. All right. So my answer for part B2 looks like this. I get a decrease in supply, which I've indicated by drawing a new supply curve to the left. P1 higher than P sub 0, Q1 less than Q sub 0. And look at that, I get another point on the AP exam. All right. B3, we're not going to do that right now because, again, that's a chapter 7. I think I mentioned that in class today. That's a chapter 7 question. It's not hard. We'll work on that later. But, let's just get done with this. Part C. In the market for coffee, the equilibrium price is $3 per cup. The equilibrium quantity is 100 cups per week. The cross price elasticity of coffee with respect to muffins is -2. So C1 is a really straightforward question. Are coffee and muffins normal goods, inferior goods, complementary goods, or substitute goods? And what they're looking for there is, do you understand cross price elasticity of -2 and what that means? That's all they're looking for there. All right. So on number 1, since we have cross price elasticity and a negative number as an answer for our cross price elasticity, that means we are dealing with complementary goods. So on C1, if you wrote complementary goods, you got a point on the AP exam and you don't even need to explain it. All right. C2, assume the supply of coffee is perfectly elastic, which is weird, but okay. Using the equilibrium price and quantity given above of $3 a cup and 100 cups, draw a correct labeled graph for the coffee market, show the impact of an increase in the price of muffins on the coffee market. So I'm going to do this part. We're going to follow me down here. We're going to look down here at my coffee market. I have a downward sloping demand curve, a perfectly flat supply curve, because they asked me to do this with a perfectly elastic supply curve. So that's what I'm doing. I got $3 and 100 from the question above, and they asked me to use those quantities. All right. So I'm very far along here to getting another point on the AP exam. We want to be careful, though. They also asked me to show the impact of an increase in price in muffins on the coffee market. Now, we have to, this is a challenging portion of this question. All right. There was an increase in the price of muffins, and coffee and muffins have a cross price elasticity of -2, meaning they are complementary goods, which we already figured out, right? So if we see an increase in the price of a complementary good, muffins, how will that impact the coffee market? And so what I need to show in that case is a shift of the demand curve in my coffee market to the left. So I need to draw all of that in order to get one more point on this question, which is hard. That's a challenging question, but it's fair because they've already given us our easy points on this one. All right. Finally, the hardest part of this, given the original quantity, and I'm here on number 3, given the original quantity of 100 cups of coffee per week right there, if the increase in the price of muffins is 10%, calculate the new equilibrium quantity in the coffee market and show your work. All right. So here we go. I've got cross price elasticity of demand is equal to the percent change in coin demanded for good 1 divided by the percent change of price in good 2. This is what I'm using to solve question C, part 3. I set up my question in the following way. Now that I have my formula, all right. Cross price elasticity of demand is -2. How do I know that? I know that because they gave it to me up here in the stem of part C. Okay. I'm solving for percent change in coin demanded for good 1. So that is my X value. That's what I don't know. Percent change in price of good 2 is 10%. They gave me that back up there in the question. So -2 is equal to X over 10%. All right. If we just do our algebra correctly, then what we know is X must be -20%. X must be 20%. All right. So think of it that way. Negative 20% over 10% would be -2. So X is negative 20%. And then what we can just say is, all right, look right here. Since we've had a negative 20% change in this case, then we can just show quite clearly here that the new quantity of coffee in our coffee market is going to be 80. After all, what happened in this case is we had the price of a complementary good go up by 10%. We have a cross price elasticity demand of -2, which shows us the ratio of the change between these two values. And that causes the quantity of coffee sold in our market to drop down to 80. All right. So that is the whole question. If you have questions about that, please bring that to class. Keep in mind that some of those are easy and some of those are hard, and that's the way it was supposed to be. Okay. Come see